Today, we're counting down 15 of the most powerful tugboats in the world. These boats defy their size with unbelievable strength, and they can maneuver the most massive ships on the planet. Let's start with number 15, the Boca Falcon. Flying under the flag of Belgium, the Boca Falcon is an offshore tug and a supply vessel. It was constructed in 2011, and it works in projects such as the ocean transportation field, oil drilling, and subsea installation of oil platforms and wind farms. At 93 meters in length, 22 meters in width, and a weight of over 5,000 tons, it gets the job done with ease. And it's because of this that the ship is often relied on for the most difficult of tasks. Number 14, the Navajo class. The U.S. Navy, of course, is always innovating, and the Navajo class rescue and salvage ship is their next generation of tugboats. Ordered in 2017 as the 2-in-1 replacement to replace the old Safeguard class rescue and salvage ships and Powhatan class tugboats, first and foremost, at a length of 95 meters and a width of 24, the ship is absolutely massive, while its two-engine production of 36,000 horsepower is nothing to sniff at. It also has a strong anchor handler designed for operating in extremely harsh environments. As such, it can work wherever and whenever the company needs it to. Number 12, the Loec Fulmar. Hailing from Panama, the Loec Fulmar is classified as a tugboat, but able to do much more. Fitted with 2 cranes at a lifting capacity of 20 tons, it's not just able to tow vessels, but also to assist with subsea construction, repair work, and maintenance. Primarily designed by Rolls-Royce, it was specially made to operate in the harsh climate of the North Sea, and to work on the oil and gas sector. And at a length of 93 meters, width of 22, and a weight of 5,000 tons, it certainly has the size and the chops to complete all these tasks with ease. Number 11, Island Victory, doing several different tasks. In fact, it's even licensed to work as an oil recovery ship while in Norwegian waters, making it a true jack of all trades, or maybe jack of all boats. Number 10, the Sorum class. While the U.S. Navy may be the world's preeminent naval superpower, the Russian Navy is nothing to sniff at. And while they have a strong lineup of ships, their best offering in terms of tugboats is the Sorum class. First built in 1972 in the service of the Soviet Navy and the KGB, they've continued to see production into the post-Cold War era. These vessels are notable for performing the standard missions of a seagoing tugboat, with these including the protecting and patrolling of Russian maritime borders, the enforcement of navigational rules, law enforcement, search and rescue, and fishery protection. Coming in at 57 meters in length and 13 meters in width, they are rather large and make use of no less than 4 onboard generators and 2 propulsion motors. Now, interestingly, this class also comes maximum capacity. On the other hand, the experimental tug, it acts as a test bed for SIGINT, signal intelligence, and hydroacoustic equipment. In short, this equipment is used to spy and intercept info on enemies through both signals and acoustics. So, these reconnaissance ships can be pretty dangerous if used correctly. So as such, while the Russian Navy may not match that of their American rivals, their flagship tugboat is still pretty impressive. Number 9, the Boomin' Beaver. So while the Boomin' Beaver may not be the largest nor the most powerful boat on this list relative to its size, it is a pretty impressive ship with a pretty cool name. Originally, they're designed for not military use, but for the logging industry. More specifically, they were supposed to raft and pull floating logs for the commercial logging industry. From the 1970s to the early 2000s, they worked exclusively in this role. However, in 2002, the U.S. Navy ordered a whole bunch of them. The first boat in the 13-boat order was delivered in January of 2003, and ever since, they've been pickup trucks. However, with the help of their turbocharged 5.9-liter inline 6-cylinder 260 horsepower Cummins diesel engine, they deliver up to 3,400 kilograms of pulling power. As of 2020, the Navy had 10 Beavers in service. One is believed to be permanently stationed near the more than 200-year-old USS Constitution at the Boston National Historical Park, where it protects the historic ship from tampering. Other Beavers are in use at Naval Base Point Loma in San Diego, California, and Naval Base Kitsap on the Kitsap Peninsula in Washington State, making them a true American ship and a rather important protector of naval bases. So, while the Boomin' Beaver may be small, its little teeth are sure mighty. Number 8, Sprague. While there are several large towboats out there today, one that was the king of the castle during the time of steam power was Sprague. Built by Iowa Iron Works in 1901 for Captain Peter Sprague, it was the world's largest steam-powered stern-wheeler towboat. A stern-wheeler towboat because thanks to her output of over 2,000 horsepower and 6 Hopkin boilers, she was capable of regularly pushing up to 56 coal barges at once. In fact, in February of 1907, Sprague would set a world record for towing 60 barges of coal and weighing over 61,000 tons. For reference, that amount of coal was equal to carrying the equivalent of 1,500 rail cars full. It was because of all this impressive performance that she was nicknamed Big Mama, and she soon became quite famous. On one hand, she made quite the impression. After all, due to her size and massive tows of cargo she pushed, she would sometimes cause the Mississippi to run backwards behind her as she passed going upriver. However, Sprague was also a humanitarian. After all, she allegedly rescued about 20,000 people fleeing the high waters of the Great Mississippi River flood of 1927. She did this by having her people stand on the floating barges, picking them up and evacuating them to safety downriver. Now, while the Sprague was a great ship, moving on to number 7, the Sam Towage. The world of towing has seen a continuous innovation over time, and the folks over at Sam Towage are certainly at the forefront. That's because in April of 2024, they released one of the world's first fully electric tugboats. While not the first of its kind, Sam Towage's craft is certainly pretty special. It's powered by 2 lithium-ion battery banks, and these 100% electric zero-emission tugs are currently at work in the Canadian port city of Vancouver. This is important for 2 main reasons. First and foremost, Sam anticipates that its 2 inaugural battery electric tugs will reduce CO2 emissions by about 2,400 metric tons annually. For reference, that's equivalent to taking 600 gas-burning cars off the road. In a world where carbon emissions serve as an existential threat, creating this example of a truly sustainable yet functional ship should inspire other port cities to also invest in these vessels. Another major pro is that tugs emit considerably less marine noise, likely require further investments in electric towing. As put by Bowen Ma, who is the province's Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, quote, Sam's Towage's 2 new fully electric tugs are a welcome addition to the busy port of Vancouver and are going to have a major impact on how industry is powering marine operations. Although these are the first electric tugs in the port, we're hoping they inspire others to make the switch. This project is supported through British Columbia's Clean BC Go Electric Commercial Vehicle Pilots program, which is helping industry to reduce the emissions in the medium and heavy-duty vehicle sector, resulting in cleaner air and water for people now and for future generations. End quote. Number 6. The Powhatan Class. The U.S. has had a long and storied naval history, and the Powhatan Class is a tugboat that's been around for a large portion of the country's last 50 years of military engagements. You see, during the war, the U.S. Navy realized that its tugboats not only had to be very powerful, but also able to complete transatlantic and transpacific them and underwater vehicles launched from the deck. And while these tugboats were not designed to engage in combat, what they were designed to do was to be used in areas of active fighting. Since damaged ships are often burning, the tugs are equipped with 3 fire monitors, which can pump more than 8,300 liters of firefighting foam per minute with the help of 2 diesel engines. The tug's pumps could assist damaged ships in dewatering flooded compartments, and while the ships weren't supposed to fight, they were designed to hold 2 20mm guns and 2 50 caliber machine guns in a time of war. It's also worth noting that unlike most Navy ships, the Powhatan class was crewed by civilian mariners. In total, a crew would consist of about 16 civilian crew and a 4-person military detachment of communication specialists. The ships could also accommodate an additional 16 people for mission-specific roles. However, the days of the Powhatan class boat are limited. That's because all but one of them have been retired, and the current plan is to replace them with the Navajo class rescue and salvage ship. Yet despite their promise, the Navajo with Enchandia in 2018 to build the world's first electric ferry fleet, Damen Shipyards again collaborated with them in 2020 to create another maritime landmark, the world's first full-size, fully electric ship-handling tugboat. Sparky is 25 meters long and designed to tow and assist large vessels and maritime objects in and out of New Zealand's Auckland Harbour. Now, in order to power this forward-thinking ship, the design team made use of an Enchandia E-Tug energy storage system that's based on LTO cells. Now, these LTO cells are heavy-duty enough to perform high-power operations while still being fast-charging. So fast, in fact, that they can charge from 20 to 90% in minutes. The battery life is also pretty strong. Sparky can anchor between 2 to 3 ships before needing a recharge. Its battery is also very durable. It can last for anywhere between 20 to 30,000 cycles at a minimum, ensuring that the tugboat will last for at least the next 25 years. On one hand, this system helps with blackout prevention, load sharing between energy sources. In September of that year, Sparky received the prestigious Tug of the Year award at the 2022 International Tug and Salvage Awards. Number 4. Rising Star. While the Rising Star may not be the largest tugboat on this list, it stands apart for perhaps having the best record of them all in terms of operations and rescues. Built in 1991, it's the U.S. Air Force's one and only tugboat, and it's stationed at the Patuxent Space Base. It's located more than 1,200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle on the northwest coast of Greenland. This Rising Star is essential to the base operations, as it escorts fuel tankers and cargo ships. This makes the Rising Star the latest in a long line of tugboats that have helped resupply Patuxent Space Base ever since its founding in 1953. This important role is a possibility thanks to the tugboat's power. It's got 2 Detroit diesel 2-stroke V16 engines with 900 horsepower each. However, this doesn't make it perfect. While the tugboat is operational from May to September, the 3rd of 2020, the crew of the Rising Star responded to a distress call from a leaking commercial ship. The ship in question was about 50 kilometers south of the base and caught in dangerous 2-meter-high waves. While the weather was pretty rough, the Rising Star miraculously managed to make it to the commercial ship and tow it back to its base. It's also worth mentioning that while the Air Force owns the boat, Rising Star is actually crewed by contractors. However, as put by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Warren, quote, "As fun as it is to tell visitors that we have Air Force-only tugboat, what really matters is that the Rising Star is operated by our outstanding contract partners to make our ports safe for the vital cargo ships that resupply us every year." The Rising Star is one more data point that points to the fact that life and operations on the top of the world are only possible when the whole team, military, civilians, and contractors, all tug together. End quote. Number 3. Far Samson. While it may not be the most powerful tugboat in the world any longer, the one that combines both diesel-electric and diesel-mechanical transmission. In fact, it's because of this that the tugboats achieved a 95% nitrogen oxide reduction, and it's not required to engage in exhaust cleanup. Its strong propellers are supplemented by a number of thrusters at the rear and front. These include no less than 3 tunnel thrusters, 2 swing-up azimuth thrusters, and a single combi thruster. The ship is also equipped with 2 cranes supplied by National Oil Well Varco, with the main deck crane having an impressive capacity of about 250 tons, and the nearby support crane having a capacity of up to 18 tons. Meanwhile, a 7.2 by 7.2 meter moon pool assists the ship in deploying equipment offshore. To keep things safe and in check, the ship's also equipped with active heel control systems and passive roll reduction tanks. In fact, it's so effective that the types of jobs it can do go far beyond just towing. That's because the ship is designed to carry out heavy plowing operations for pipes and cables on the seabed, conduct subsea installation work in ultra-deep water, and of course, boats have been around since antiquity. The first steamboat to ever do the job of tugging was none other than the Charlotte Dundas. While it was neither very big nor very strong, its status as the first steam tugboat made it, at least for the time, the most powerful tugboat on the planet. Now, the story of the steam tugboat starts a little before Charlotte Dundas. That's because the credit for this type of ship's invention belongs not to the creators, but to a different man, known rather fitting as Jonathan Hulls. He was born in Gloucestershire, England, in 1699. He had a natural gift for mechanics, and it's because of this that he began his professional life making and repairing clocks. But soon, he began dreaming up bigger and better things. So on December 21st of 1736, he filed a patent. In the filing, he described his invention as, quote, "a new invented machine for carrying vessels or ships out of or into any harbor, port, or river against wind and tide, or in calm, for which His Majesty has granted letters patent for the sole benefit of the author for the explanations on how it was possible for a small vessel to tow a larger vessel and whether or not the force of the water would damage parts of the tugboat." However, despite its promise, neither the patent nor the pamphlet led to a practical trial of Hull's invention. Instead, it seems to have more or less been met with ridicule. After all, Hull's only benefactor pulled the plug on funding soon after it was patented. Worse still, after his passing, the following poem began to be repeated around his hometown. Jonathan Hulls, with his patent sculls, invented a machine to go against wind and stream, but he, being an ass, couldn't bring it to pass, and so was ashamed to be seen. Well, with Jonathan's passing came a temporary death of the tugboat idea, and it wasn't until a few decades later that the new tugboat came into being. Known as the Charlotte Dundas, it was designed by William Symington in a way that was somewhat similar to Hull's design. Built and funded with the support of Lord Dundas, it was named after his daughter Charlotte. After some improvements in March of 1803, the Charlotte Dundas towed across the planet. Number 1. The V4MA-1. Some of World War II's most intense battles were in the water. In the Pacific Theater in particular, aircraft carriers launched fighter jets, massive battleships shot at enemy boats, and submarines made surprise attacks. Meanwhile, on the beaches of Normandy and Sicily, transport boats brought in thousands upon thousands of soldiers, ready to swarm the beaches as they moved. However, one ship that almost never gets the credit it's due is the humble tugboat. While it may not seem like the type of ship that would be all that useful in the thick of battle, the reality is that tugboats played an essential role in warfare during this period. Now, it should be made clear that on most naval battlefields, tugboats were all but useless. With a maximum speed of about 15 knots, tugboats were slow even by World War I standards. So, in World War II, they simply couldn't match the speeds of large naval vessels. Tugboats played an essential role. You see, in the middle of battle, boats would get damaged, so in order to rescue the craft, the captain and the crew, it was necessary to tow them off the battlefield. Several times during the day, tugboats came in mid-fight and under heavy fire to retrieve broken-down ships left helpless in the water. This in turn contributed to the Allied victory and saved quite a few lives. Tugboats also saw use during naval operations that were expected to come under attack, particularly when rescue ships weren't readily available. As an example, there's evidence that tugboats saw action during Operation Pedestal. This was the codename given to Britain's air and sea supply of Malta, which required the British Navy to sail through German-occupied waters. While the tugs were not on official records due to them being neither a merchant ship nor an escort, historic reports suggest that in August of 1942 there was one tugboat assigned to the oiling force and one to the escort moving through Malta. From time to time, tugboats would even be used to rescue troops from otherwise deadly situations. One famous 85 rescue tugs that were manned by about 2,000 personnel. And while a total of 20 tugs were lost due to a combination of mines, torpedoes, bombs, or bad weather, in return the division saved nearly 3 million tons of merchant shipping and a grand total of 254 British and Allied warships. However, of all the tugboats to grace the waters during World War II, America's V4MA-1 was the cream of the crop. Named after a type of lighthouse, they were the most powerful tugs in the world when they were built in 1943. They had steel hulls, were 59 meters long, and weighed in at 1,400 tons. And in order to have enough power to operate, they made use of either a 6- or 8-cylinder engine, depending on the ship. Due to their importance, they were built in shipping yards across America, with these yards including sites in New York, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin. Over the entirety of their production cycle, a grand total of 49 of these incredible ships were made. While not all of them have well-recorded histories, it appears that most, if